When I was preparing for this podcast, I was scouring the internet and I'm going through all these articles, and I'm finding articles that are, surprisingly early on referencing what we now call enhanced services. The terminology has changed a little bit. Groups like CPESN have kind of, almost established standards for that conversation. But even in the 90s, you were moving into what you guys were calling, I guess, patient care services. So it sounds like you had a focus on kind of changing your role and eyeing some opportunities before it was really kind of popular to do so.
Yeah, definitely. I would say, and part of that will comes from the way that pharmacy works in Iowa is really pretty special, because we have two schools of pharmacy. We have a state association that represents all pharmacists, and if you work at it, it's an equation to build opportunities that maybe can't happen in other places as easily. And so when the people in Minnesota were coming up with the theories about pharmaceutical care, both Minnesota and Florida, and talking about how this can work, I think Iowa was really the first place where we said we're going to make it work in the real life of pharmacy, and not just the theories, and not just here's a perfect world and here's how it would work. We kind of got it down to the nuts and bolts of what it takes to document the care you provide, and seek out the people who really need that extra care, delivered in a way that improves their patient outcomes, hopefully improves the cost of their care at the same time. And so the Iowa Center for Pharmaceutical Care started with 12 sites in Iowa, and we are one of them. And again, I give a lot of credit. I'm very fortunate to have, grown up with my dad being my mentor. But, at his age then, in the early 90s, he was showing everybody else on our staff that he was going to do this too. And nice. So, he was 60 some years old and had been out of school for 40 years, and he was going to also learn how to document and provide care the way that this new wave was coming through. And I think it's pretty hard for the other staff pharmacists to say, well, I'm going to slack off, when you saw Bobo attending these meetings at 10 o'clock at night, that we were driving to meet other pharmacists to talk about our barriers and our solutions and our problems and what we're going to do to make it work. And so it was inspiring to everybody. And again, we took that concept with the 12 sites and we expanded it to about 200 pharmacists across the state that were involved in it. The state association worked to get a contract with Iowa Medicaid to get paid for what we were doing. Really a groundbreaking, contract at that point. But it showed that, we really could do it. We really could make a difference. And then other things that, as we looked at those opportunities, we really tried to have a broad lens about what else can we do. We got involved in some community-based research for pharmaceutical companies. In the 90s also, we looked at the opportunities to not only, do things in Iowa, but how can we expand it outside of that? And so we helped APHA develop a Center for Pharmaceutical Care, and ended up working with the APHA Foundation on Project Impact to show how we could impact the lipid levels of patients and their adherence, and getting them on the right meds and having them work. And again, not every project worked. We were doing a hypertension project that we just didn't get staffed up for properly, and didn't get everybody in the staff involved in, and it was sort of a bust. But we learned from those failures to that you got to have a champion within every site if you really want to make change work, and if you want to, and you have to seriously look at both your physical layout of your pharmacy and the workflow of your pharmacy. Those nuts and bolts type things are important. In the sites that were more successful, you could see that that's what they had done, and so we've taken that concept into today to flip the pharmacy through Community Pharmacy Foundation and CPESN. And when we're trying to transform a practice to help them get to that next level, you have to start with the basics, and that's it's a lesson we learned, and like I said, the fact that you don't make it, that every one of these projects isn't a success, I think is the reality. You need to go into them, say, we're going to learn from what we did, we're going to move on, and we're going to make the next one more successful.